Hey, good evening, guys. This is Ken at Tortoise Capital with Tom Hardison, and this is Energy Work for Traders, October 7th, 2025. Let me shrink that one screen down a little bit. There we go. Okay, that should be it. And uh, Tom and I have been through a full round uh, of energy work sessions where we've taken a look at what I've called the eight imbalances of traders, and and explored what they meant, which was very revelatory to me. Along the way, in the experiential learning moments, I had come up with some new visualizations and sketches that were arraying how I was interpreting the imbalances now, and I was seeing them as pairs. uh, Tom put them together in pairs to hold them like in opposition, and there were two different sketches, and I wasn't sure which one was correct. And my new feeling is that they're both correct. They're both different points of view, and I just wanted to start off with those first to kind of get the thing rolling, and then see where we might want to go with uh, talking some more about Tom's work. The central idea that emerged from the energy work sessions was that the imbalances uh, act almost like Aristotelian virtues in the sense that um, each one represented an extreme move beyond a balance point in one direction or the other in pairs. So, like if I look at the left hand side, perfectionism versus overreaching, and we went through the what each one felt like and why they were in opposition and what was the axis upon which these were the two extreme positions. And we worked our way through all of the pairs. So distraction and revenge, hesitation and impulsiveness, rigidity and isolation. And the first way that I saw that was as um, the axis of imbalance was different in each case. The source, the source of the imbalance, or the the way of knowing that was in control. Like the perfectionism versus the overreaching felt very much like it was in my head, a rational decision that I was making intentionally in the moment to deviate from a trading plan. So I arrayed it. It made sense to see that going through the head. The distraction versus revenge was something that I kind of felt was between the heart and the gut, in the sense that there were values at work there and identity, but also some emotionality. So it felt like it was a combination of heart and gut. The hesitation and impulsiveness really felt centered in the instinctive knee-jerk response to external stimuli. Uh, so that was centered in the gut. Um, the hands seemed to be concerned with rigidity and isolation, in the sense that it was a skill that I had developed, and skill for me is resident in the hands for craft work. But in some cases, I was too doctrinaire, rigidity, and then in some cases, not open to external feedback, so isolation. And so, in one way, it made sense to me to see how each of these pairs was located in different parts of the psychology, which led me to understand them more deeply and then helped me realize that all I really needed to do was to get back to that vertical axis in the middle, which was the not a cure for or a fixing of these imbalances, but really just holding them in opposition so that their mutual energy could provide motive power, but where I was able to operate within the band of excellence in the center. So in some way, this array on the left was kind of the first way I looked at it from a diagnosis point of view. And I noticed that there was a definite feeling of inaction on the left hand side where perfectionism, distraction, hesitation, and rigidity all were times when I should be acting according to a plan, but I wasn't. I was waiting to be too perfect. I was distracted by other things and missed the moment. I intentionally hesitated in the key moment, or I was too resistant to change and locked into what I was doing. And then the right hand side, the overreaching revenge, impulsiveness, and isolation, featured acting when my trading plan said I should not be acting. So I was aiming for too much. I was motivated to act out of revenge. I was being impulsive rather than planned and deliberate in my actions. And then the isolation meant that I was uh, busy fumbling around in my cell instead of being open to maybe more reflection or study or scouting or whatever it might have been, that I was acting in isolation. So it was I didn't realize that when I first came up with the imbalances, but this array on the left-hand side really locked into place for me a lot of um, synthesis and integration that featured both action and inaction, and the combination of these, I guess, the common feature of all of these is that no matter which one of those eight imbalances that it was at work, um, for their own reasons and starting from a different location, in every case, the right answer was to simply get back into balance, was to rebalance, find my center again. And so, almost like I see this almost like as a spinning top that when it has a lot of RPMs going, that thing is nice, like a gyroscope almost. But the other way that I looked at this too was on the right hand side, which was more of the traditional way that I draw the five ways of knowing um, in the Walking Man, which is a head, heart, gut, feet, and hands, and a this idea of a three-dimensional space um, moving through the fourth dimension of time. So there's motion and direction, and when you're moving, now the sense of balance becomes even more important because you're in motion and going in a certain way, which means that you're moving through time and space. You want that to be balanced so that you can react. And so this array where these imbalances were felt like they were outside of my little cone of balance. If I looked at that as a three-dimensional semi pyramid looking shape and space with me inside that operating correctly, there's an area within there in which I am balanced, my safe space. And then it's almost like a force field, if I can say it that way. Um, when I notice an imbalance, it's because I've kind of broken that barrier, and it could be any one of those eight things that's causing me to be imbalanced in that direction. I've sort of arrayed them in the same way as the chakra looking thing on the left hand side, but this one also communicated to me in a way that was powerful in the sense that it was like a body in motion and an activity of achieving balance. Because even if you're completely motionless, the world and universe are moving around you, so there's relative motion, whether it's you or the universe moving. And so, how to remain balanced on a moving dance floor, if I can say it that way, or in a three-dimensional space. Uh, I get that sense of direction and travel and journey from the image on the right. And so I was trying to figure out which one of these is correct, and I think they both are in the sense that the left-hand side gives the idea of almost a gyroscope and the spinal column that where I am above me, I can think of you know, sun, uh, air, and water coming from above, and then being anchored into the earth below. And now these five chakras, if you will, this spine is that connection between sky and earth, and that's what creates the connection and allows this thing to be grounded and to pick up motion. So that, in a sense, from a circuitry, almost like an electrical circuit, makes sense to me. The right hand side, from a traveler or a journey through three-dimensional space, feels correct too. So my conclusion is that they're both right. Is light particle or a wave? Yes, it's both, depending on how you look at it. And so I'm pretty happy with the way both of these things kind of came into my head uh, and made sense of the different sessions that we were going on. These were uh, this is the end result of the sketching and whatnot that I was doing during our sessions, and so that's where I wanted to get us to, just by way of introduction, sort of uh, a checkpoint on our journey here, and and say that overall, I am really really satisfied with the way we did the work together. It was a very protreptic style of call and response, of guide and guided, and I felt like we lived up to the standards on that one pretty nicely. And I just want to express my thanks for your help and work on that. And I want to kick it over to you so we can kind of explore, maybe next steps or other things that you do in your work, because this happened to be sort of the one-to-one, almost bespoke way of doing things, which has always kind of characterized our work together. So let me toss it over to you, Tom, and see where we end up going next.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ken, for sharing your drawings. It so the drawing on the right
Yeah,
um, it connects me back to the image you had in our last call of the inner space, the middle space, and the outer space,
yeah,
and this my safe space being that inner space where you can have calm presence.
yeah,
This middle space when you're do I act or am I overreacting
yeah,
uh, with what's going on? And then any insight coming
yeah.
from beyond.
Definitely, like the inside space inside those circles of the head, heart, gut, and feet.
Yeah.
But then there's this middle space in which I'm working in the world, but within the boundaries of my chosen area of operations, we would call that. And then
Mhm.
outside of that is that boundary, the area of interest, and then there's that sort of filter or semi-porous boundary between me and the external world, and then between me and the skin container of the inner space. So yeah, definitely those three areas.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Uh, we started this. You put together. Here are my eight imbalances, and calm presence
Yeah,
was you brought that to mind and said, well, that's something you think I bring sometimes in
yeah,
our conversations,
yeah.
and that helps you in dealing with these imbalances.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
so, what I'm wondering is what's different for you now from before our first conversation
Yeah.
about calm presence at the end of August?
Well, I would say it's the integration of the eight. Um, when we first started, my my feeling, my understanding was that these were eight isolated things. They were just among many different. These were just eight of the ways in which I am not centered, and it was just like sometimes I'm this and sometimes I'm that. So each one felt like it was an isolated event, and maybe I was picking the top eight that came to mind that or seemed to be the most troublesome most often. And I didn't see them as a collection, and I didn't see them as pairs for sure, and I didn't see them as um, integrated phenomenon around the idea of balance or imbalance. It wasn't until we sort of, I guess, slowed the rotation down a little bit and looked at them individually, but then also collectively and how they fit together and how the pairs fit back together in the set of eight. And now it feels much more like, the serenity of looking at a night sky and watching the moon go through its travels, or an airplane slowly blinking its way across. We're watching comets or falling stars. So there is sort of a sense of progression in all things in their own time. Um, there's a serenity to that at night in the night sky, that there's action and motion, but it's always kind of measured and purposeful and natural and unhurried, but relentless and continuous. And so now these um, almost like eight planets in orbit around the central spot in my heart, I would say. If you looked at that as the gravitational center of this constellation, I've got head, hands, heart, gut, and feet kind of in my space, and then these other forces, these gravitational fields that are wanting to pull one way or the other, but really taken together in proper harmony, establish the movement of the spheres. I'm thinking of the
Mm.
symphony of the
Yeah.
planets, and the way that the way those things are. The gravitational fields of planets in a solar system actually lend stability and regulation to the orderly movement of the entire uh, solar system. They're almost like outriggers on a sailing boat. So the calm presence that I'm feeling nowadays is related to how I feel when I'm walking the dogs late at night and watching the sky and looking at all things in their natural order. And there's not much traffic when I'm walking, and so when there is, and I live in Kansas, I can see that thing coming from a long way away, and just sort of like there's the car, and there it comes across the landscape, moving on, moving, it's all the way over, and there's a almost a calming presence about that. The sound of it is different. You can't hear it, but you can see it, and then slowly you hear it, and then the Doppler effect as it goes by, and you can hear the wind, and then off it goes. There's a certain rising of frequency and amplitude, and then a tailing off. So it's a very orderly and serene event of passing traffic inside the larger serenity at night. So that what I am feeling now about these imbalances is that very uh, completeness and proper relationship between all of these things. Like to remove one of those, like fixing it, would somehow not be correct because you're removing something from the equation, and that would make it lopsided, and it doesn't have the counterweight, if I can say it that way, to achieve balance. So you almost, if you look at the one on the left, it's like when a guy's walking the tightrope and he has that balancing pole and he's using where he is in the center of that pole and adjustments, can almost use that as a balance beam and provides greater stability because of the weight of it. Helps lock you into, you're a heavier weight now as you're walking on the rope. And you can use your point in the center to achieve that serene balance, the Walendas. And that's kind of what I'm feeling about it now is the the proper array of these things, acknowledging where they are in the cardinal directions and whatever, but having a place in the middle to be I'm not hesitating and I'm not impulsive, but I'm in that, my gut is in that right uh, feeling of calm serenity that it achieves a balance point between those two things. And it's almost as if, each of those chakras. Now, if you look at the one on the left, the head, the heart, and the gut are sharing two, and the hands are sharing one. And that actually enables the feet just to keep taking next steps. That's where the motive energy is coming from, is the feet are taking the steps. And having the pairs balanced out keeps the other four ways of knowing in proper harmony so the feet can do their job, which is the sense that I got on the right. That's where the motion and directionality on the right hand side gets expressed, which is why, to me, having both sketches makes a lot of sense. Um, and
And
then I just noticed a connection there between on the right hand side, the hands connecting horizontally through the heart almost feels like, carrying that pole, hands doing the work of the heart. There's some proper alignment in there. And then that hands, heart, balancing the head and the gut. The head is now in opposition to the gut, and it's the heart is that neutral adjudication place. And then that allows the feet to take the steps. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about those things now. The uh, very much like a solar system in motion, a tightrope walker with calm serenity. You figure, how could Carl Walenda walk across Niagara Falls, without a net and just walking on a rope and keep your head in a time like that? Wow. We talk about calm serenity and surrendering to the moment. Holy smokes.
well, it might be a bit like walking point in enemy territory for your
Oh,
patrol.
yeah, for sure. For sure. There's out that heightened seriousness, but manageable, and a challenge to, can you keep it manageable? Can you stay within yourself and properly mindful and present at all those times in order to really detect all the other things that are going on around you? So if everything about you is calm and everything inside that cone is calm, then on your little perception screen, which is where the boundary of that outer space is, you can start detecting changes at that limit of perception in the operational space. So having calm serenity in that space allows you to notice the tiniest signals as they occur the first time it occurs. The crickets stopped chirping. That's important. You know, the birds stopped singing, and being able to suddenly detect the absence of signal is information. So I guess that's what one way to look at another way to look at this is when one of those eight imbalances is in play, that gets your attention. You're thinking about, oh, I am feeling isolated. I'm noticing that I'm distracted. And just that fact alone has taken your awareness away from the balancing point out to the periphery in and only looking at one certain thing. And the idea of balance is to quickly get right back into that vertical drive shaft there. We're back into that space and instantly regain calm serenity and have everything else fall into its natural place instead of spending time out there wondering why and chasing this and explaining that. No, just get back to center, take care of the steps, and think about this. Let that stuff just go. Let it be what it was. And
So each of these imbalances
yeah,
are sensory elements, emotions,
Yeah.
and motions in our nervous system.
Yeah.
And noticing them is important because they let you know it's the absence of crickets or
Yeah.
it's the rush of a wind.
Yeah. It's
Um,
like almost if it was bowling and they put the gutter pads in there for kids, you hit that left bumper pad and it's telling you you're okay as long as you're on the lane. But if
yeah,
it hits that other thing, man, oh, you gotta correct it. It's not important which side you're on or what. It's the get back on the lane and rolling is sort of what's key. Don't stay out there too long. Once you've noticed it, it's already a say, oh, I'm rigid. Okay, regain balance. Oh, I
mhm,
noticed there was revenge. Okay, just let it go. Get balanced and
yeah,
instantly let go of the imbalance now that you've named it. Oh, it was that. Now I can leave that and go back to the center. That's sort of
yeah,
that, earlier I talked in one of the sessions about not trying to spend too much time developing a theory of overreaching or a
mhm,
detailed explanations of overreaching and why, and getting a whole taxonomy of overreaching. And don't just overreaching enough. Get back to balance. Shift the other way now. Um, yeah,
So I want to come back to a few things that I was hypothesizing in the beginning that we've touched on throughout our conversations. Um, and maybe in the context of why might this be important to other traders to consider, and certainly for me to consider as a trader too, as I've been learning with you. So first was intention. And the intention you framed in our second call, well, our first call was really meeting financial objectives with a minimum amount of risk.
yeah,
And the perception that these imbalances increase risk because they keep me from being in calm presence and being able to act appropriately in the moment
yeah,
of a compound critical state.
yeah. Because each one could have consequences in a trade. It may or it may not. I mean, in some cases, it's like that failure to act may have been failure to take a trade. So that actually increases the challenge of achieving the objective because I was supposed to take that opportunity. That opportunity is part of a positive expectancy system. And by not taking the trade, I'm now making all of the other trades that I do take have to carry a little bit more weight to cover the gains that I didn't make from not trading. Or it delays the arrival of true financial freedom by the amount of time of the trade not taken. So in that sense, yeah, each one of these represents a risk to that overall objective, um, and makes it just harder to achieve. Or yeah, you have to run a little bit faster, live a little bit longer, in some sense. And so there's a need to not hurry. That just because you regain balance doesn't mean you then, okay, now let me go faster. That's sort of, there's sort of a natural range of speeds that you can go in as you're moving and walking along that allow you to maintain balance. You think about that on a bicycle. If you move too slowly on the bicycle, it loses that centripetal force and now it's starting to wobble. Too fast, and maybe the frame starts flexing, or you don't have enough time to react in your space, and now um, you don't have fine motor control because the speed is overcoming your ability to make micro adjustments. So you have to make bigger adjustments, and now it starts spinning out of control. So there's something like a speed of motion in this thing that is, we didn't necessarily cover that, but that's kind of like when you add direction and velocity to the vector here.
Yeah.
The
Well,
balanced movement, you have to be balanced not only where you're standing, so you don't fall over, but also maintaining balance in motion, which is another, that's another level of this thing altogether.
Yeah, and in our your first definition of calm presence, you
Yeah.
talked about being in the flow
Yeah.
of the market, of the situation, of what's happening around you.
Hmm.
And so this ability to choose where to focus your attention between inner space, middle space, outer space as appropriate, and adjust yourself as a complex adaptive system.
Yeah, in some ways, the when you're moving in the flow of the moment. So let me say it this way: you're in the flow, and the flow itself may be moving. So if the flow is moving and you're moving with it, it doesn't feel like you're moving at all. It's like you're sitting in the car and the world is moving, but the car is just kind of staying there. The world is moving around you, but you don't have that sense of motion because you're properly in tune. If you're driving the car too slow and other cars are passing you, you're out of the flow, and that feels off putting because now you're an obstacle to them, and that's raising the risk. Going too fast, now suddenly you got to dodge cars, and now you don't have as much reaction time. But there's an envelope inside that flow in which you're moving, but it doesn't feel like moving. It's you're just in that position, and the world is moving. So that's you know, one of the Professor Csikszentmihalyi, when he talked about flow state, um, would say that time seems to slow, motion seems to slow, and you're just in the right place and time, and there's no distinction now between you and all the other moving bodies or stationary bodies. They're not moving and you're not moving, and you're right in the right relationship. And when the whole thing starts moving, you're moving along with it. So it's sort of that uh, right action with all of the other things in relationship is a good way to characterize flow in that sense. Trading when you should be trading and just as much as you should, not trading when you shouldn't be trading, but ready for noticing state changes and when to shift into action. That's sort of the limits of flow on the between action and inaction. Which, if we look at the chart on the left,
Mhm.
that flow state down at the bottom is implied as being where that vertical shaft is now perfectly balanced between action and inaction in the right mix.
Yeah. So you described it at the end of our last conversation, a feeling of uh, lighterness, being lighter in what you're doing,
Yeah.
um, and some of this has come from a whole range of things. What's gone on in your educational environments and the challenges you've been experiencing there, and
Yeah.
lightening the load on books, the 2 years of coaching you've been doing with traders,
Yeah.
the work on the AI mastermind coach
Yeah.
brain,
Hmm.
um, etc. Um, so, talk to me. The sense I get is you're just more at peace with yourself
Yeah,
now.
definitely. I mean, I'll go back to that solar system analogy and bodies in motion and properly rotating around a central theme is that all of those individual pieces and parts now feel a lot more in their proper space and time and in relationship to each other. Each one gets to make a claim on my time and activity that I've chosen to be proper. And I feel like I'm navigating among them and with them in a very nice balance. Um, that the standard week now feels correct. You know what I do on Sundays and Mondays, and each day of the week has a certain flavor to it now. That Tuesdays is my day of no soccer practice, very good trading, and then a coaching session for me on Tuesday nights, like this one. Mondays and Wednesdays is um, regular trading and work, soccer practice, quick shower, coaching others, and then reports. Thursdays is kind of a writing day and research day. Friday is a practice day, and then deep reflection and synthesis. Saturday is clean up reports, play soccer with kids, our little
mm,
um, work in progress review, and then uh, uh, Saturday evening with the family, and Sunday some more early morning coaching with the overseas guys, a long walk with the. So each one of those days now has its own character, and then each of the lines of operation that I have all have their natural time and place for work to be done and right sized without trying to overdo it. So there's a certain rhythm and pulse that to the standard work day and work week that now feels correct and much more in balance now. And yeah, uh, being able to let go of some of the contentiousness at work, realizing it's only contentious if I make it contentious or allow it to be, and it's going to be what it is. Um, and I can choose to make it contentious or not. So, yeah, I would say, especially the last 6 months, I think I've really done a nice job of letting those things find their, settling in, and letting them find their own level without trying to overthink it. So that's relaxing the knowledge of the head in some ways and trust in the hands and feet to find the positioning of things and to remove risk from the gut, and then
mm,
working on the alignment of things with the heart for directionality. That's that, the ability to let go of the books, clothing. I mean, I just took five enormous uh, uh, bags, uh, contractor bags, down to the local St. Vincent de Paul to donate clothes that I haven't worn for 2 or 3 years or longer. Workout clothes or whatever it might be, and just to kind of clear in the space for things to relax a little bit. So that was very helpful.
mhm. Well, so when we set about doing this, we thought, well, we'll just start with conversations and we'll see where we end up. And then we'll put it into a course
Yeah,
on Rizuku that we'll just make available for the trader community, tortoise
yeah,
community, um, with the proceeds to go to the soccer club.
yeah,
And so we could take the recordings and work on the next steps.
yeah.
And then we also talked about if there's interest, the possibility of small group coaching for other traders
Sure.
that would be interested in exploring these kinds of things, the
Yeah.
imbalances that maybe uh,
Yeah,
holding them back.
what I felt was unique about this one. So this was part of a little adventure in personal coaching for me, in that I, you know, put myself in the hands of coaches of different types and styles. And all of the other coaches that I was working with all sort of had their, I want to say, brand or style or methodology or recipe. This one was uh, much more, I think, creative in the moment, and I don't, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna say tentative, but in a non-pejorative way. I mean, um, curiously moving through the space, deliberately, unhurried, calm presence, almost a walk through the through the pasture or through the forest, noticing pathways, deciding which ones to take when we get there, but not in a, well, I have to cover this ground, but I'm thinking about that ground. I have to just get, no, it was always kind of be where you are and see where that goes and all the places that it might go. And so this was more of the, finding the Aikido flow in things as opposed to imposing a kata form on the coaching. So, in that sense, yeah, it's reminiscent of the protreptic style of coaching that really starts with wherever you are, and then just goes from there until you're done with that session, and trusting the process and the moment, and noticing things, which requires calm serenity to be able to monitor what's going on because you have to have not a plan. You have to have simple guidelines or principles, but then letting the story emerge, which we have a lot of practice with, and then
Yeah,
following the energy of the story as it discovers where it wants to go, you know, and trusting that you're part of that process. So that was an interesting comparative to me that I appreciate what the other coaches were doing. That it was very helpful and useful and procedural in that sense. Um, and this one sort of completed the circuit for me about all the other things considered, um, and and freedom to go wherever the conversation wants to go. So to me, taking the whole package together was a nice completeness in that sense, which is why I think I'm going to bundle all of the recorded sessions together just for that reason.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think we certainly my experience in this realm of, I mean, I started into learning more about trading by reading Van Tharp's books
Hmm.
in 2009, and then I think the first uh, core trading course for at home I downloaded of yours is somewhere around 2011 or 12, and then courses since then as well. And my experience in coaching, I started in learning about coaching in 2002
Yeah,
in my corporate world when I worked for HP and was working on the HP compact merger. I got a little bit of training and was leading integration efforts and coaching executives as part of it. And then I left HP in 2012 and have been coaching corporate leaders for the last 12 years. Uh, so it's a lot of fun.
yeah.
For me, I get to learn with each person, and doing it in the context of trading, I've really enjoyed these conversations with you, Ken. Thank you.
Well, what do you think? What do you think now?
Well, what I think now is let's make this available and see what people are interested in.
We'll set
If
the table and spread the
yeah,
word and let people come and sample. And I think that's what we'll do.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think I can. Um, I would just put my little vote of reference in there for it, or my testimony of reference. If you're in the sound of my voice, you will absolutely enjoy working with Tom. And we've been working together for 15 years. Seems like only yesterday, but the certain I really have valued our time and work together, and looking forward to doing some more stuff. And if I can be helpful to you, please just give me a shout and let me know what we need to do. And it feels like this would be a natural place to say aho and get this one in the can and posted and populated, if you're in agreement.
yes, aho.
Sounds good to me. Let me hit the button and then we will proceed. And there it is, another 50 minutes on the button, the way it sort of always goes, you know?
Yeah, we tend to fill the space. What sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me hit the stop.